Murphy, Schiller & Wilks is formed with a simple purpose in mind, serving as the one-stop shop for the legal needs of developers, lenders, and others in the commercial real estate industry. Based in Newark, the firm's attorneys represent clients in the most complex real estate transactions and land development proceedings, as well as property taxation, environmental and real estate litigation matters, and in the acquisition, sale, and leasing of all real estate asset types throughout the country. Their attorneys have broad private and public sector experience coming from top national law firms and high-level governmental positions. Through the development of individualized client-focused strategies, their team works tirelessly to create a blueprint for success and advance their clients' interests in every matter. To learn more, head to murphyllp.com or give them a call at 973-877-6984.
Driving on this road feels like forever.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We are here in Jersey City today at Madam with Rashaun Hall. Rashaun, welcome to the show.
Thanks, sir. Big fan of the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm a big fan of your stuff, too.
Thank you.
Anything that really has to do with alcohol, I'm pretty much a big fan of.
Same. That's why we're in a bar.
We are in a bar.
Works out.
Yeah. And we were like, because they're letting us use this space, which is very nice of them, so you don't actually work here.
Yes.
So this is not, we're not doing a spotlight on Madam today. Maybe we'll do one eventually. But I really like this space. It's like a cool spot.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's a great spot in Jersey City. Just opened a couple weeks ago. But it's Gabriel Rabin, who's the GM here and co-owner, is a good friend who I met through this industry that we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
it was kind enough to let us use the space.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so we'll do kind of like a background on you in our first segment, learn a little bit about what you do and why you do it. And then we'll get into kind of some of the other stuff like bar time stories and then some of your drink recommendations, cocktail recommendations, spots to get good cocktails in Jersey. And then we'll kind of, go along with that as we go through the episode. So I've been asking this to most of my guests, so we'll just ask you too. Are you born and raised in Jersey? Are you from Jersey originally?
Born and raised in Jersey, yep. Born in Newark. Back at United Hospital, which does not exist anymore. But
right.
Born and raised in Newark. Went to school in East Orange, and then went to high school in West Orange at Seton Prep.
Cool.
From there, went to 4 years of school at NYU, and then back in Jersey, but never, with the exception of the 4 years, I've only ever lived in Jersey. It was 4 years that I was at NYU.
Yeah, so like, full disclosure, I have not lived in Jersey my whole life.
Okay. No judgment.
It's only like 3 years, but, it's always been my home. Like, my license never changed.
Right.
Because I didn't know how to do that as like a 24-year-old.
Right.
Because I was an idiot. So, but that's cool. So, and then kind of like, so the Bar Time Stories thing, not your full-time gig.
No.
So like, what do you kind of do full-time?
So full-time, I run a digital and social media team for a TV network
cool.
out of the city.
Nice.
But yeah.
All right. So you're one of those people that takes your work into the city.
Yes, I am a commuter. I'm full-on New Jersey Transit. Luckily now.
What's that experience like? Because I've never done it before, and I just think I have to go into the city sometimes for my full-time job.
Right.
And then we were talking about off mic how going to the city. Like I live in Morristown, like a 5-minute walk to the train.
Yep.
And I'll take the train and I'm like, yeah, like this is cool. But then I'm like, people do this shit every single day.
Yeah. I used to do it every single day pre-pandemic. Yeah, it was 5 days a week in it, and I love the city. It's why I went to school there. But conversely, I need grass. I need my car. So that is why I love the balance of on the weekends I have the car. I've never considered. I very briefly considered moving into the Manhattan. That's when I met my then girlfriend, now wife, and and we ended up just staying in Jersey. And that was kind of thing I wear on my chest now. But it's much better now because I have a hybrid schedule. But when it was 5 days a week, it was pushing and shoving and a ton of people on the train. But
and you're going into Penn,
going into Penn, and
that
then
is like
either walking.
I know we're talking about New York City, but that is like one of my least favorite places in the world.
I will top you that Port Authority is worse. I used to do the bus. Okay. Port Authority is significantly worse.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever do a bus.
Penn Station is delightful in comparison. I'm not saying the bar is that high, but Penn Station
it's a very
is
low bar.
It's delightful compared to Port Authority.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So doing some marketing, different things right now.
Yep.
Has that always kind of been like your wheelhouse, like marketing, different things like that?
Ironically, started out on the other, what I always say, on the other side of the board or the pen. I started out in journalism. I was a music journalist for the first 10, 12 years of my career.
That's cool.
Got into the marketing thing, got married, was growing up, and was like, all right, I can't, this is not sustainable to be a journalist and live in New Jersey, given what things cost, and have a, music writing career. So I had to make that pivot. And got on the other side and started, doing digital marketing, social media in the music and entertainment industry.
Gotcha. All right. So, and we also talked about this off mic. So, Bar Time Stories, I think primarily is a blog. Is that right?
It is a blog. It is a podcast. When I am
just a brand,
getting
like
get on. Yes, it is. It's me. It is it's the way I see spirits and hospitality. All
right. So take me through kind of like what it is.
Sure. It is.
We'll do like a broad definition, because obviously we're going to get more into it as we go.
Yeah, it's just my POV on drinks, hospitality, and cocktail culture. Very broadly speaking, I started out back in 2017, 2018, just doing, when everyone was doing food porn, I was doing drink porn. It just felt like a guy my size doing food porn just was a little too on the nose. I'm going to be completely transparent with you. So
I get that.
So started just kind of looking at cocktails, and they come in beautiful glasses and different colors, and there's an art to it. So just started that way, and it kind of went from there.
And so how did that, why did that start?
The photos thing. I've always been kind of obsessed with social media. Okay. So that was just being into that and doing social media and 9 to 5. It was always kind of like, all right, I see myself as a brand. But what does that look like, and what am I interested in, and what stories am I telling? I've always kind of liked selling stories while I was a writer to begin with, and it was just, how do I continue to do that? And then it just became telling, as it was about these cocktails, but it was also about, I always tell people, every bartender I met has an interesting and amazing story. No one, at 5 says they want to be a bartender that I've ever met, at least. So
I don't think so either. Yeah.
Musicians, actors, professors, geniuses who are just like, I love slinging a drink. So, it's kind of how that started. And like I said, from posting Instagram posts to all of a sudden, starting to freelance and get into the space and learning just more and more about distilleries, breweries, all of the many intricacies of everything that goes behind every bottle, and whether it's a bottle of whiskey or a bottle of beer. And the folks who kind of touch that glass before it reaches this bar.
Right. And so, and it's not, I know you said earlier, and we're going to get into it a little bit more later, that you wear the jersey pride on your chest. Yeah. But I don't think Bar Time Stories is all jersey.
It is not all jersey. Okay. It is a lot of jersey, though. Okay. So anytime anytime I can do, because I live here also, anytime I can just wave that flag for that's a spot like this, or a distillery or a brewery that is that I find, or that launches, or just people who make stuff or own brands that are from Jersey, I'm always happy I always want to put them first and foremost. But I just got back from Colorado, so I was at a distillery this past weekend in Breckenridge, so that was great. I've done, I've been very fortunate to travel to Scotland a few times. I've done Barbados. I've done a bunch of distillery and spirit trips, but I try to do Jersey first and foremost, because that's, I think there's amazing stories to tell here, and people kind of always have a thing about Jersey sometimes. So,
right. And I also think that, I don't know, in my opinion, you know more about this stuff than I do, because I've only been doing this show, and it's not specific to distilleries and breweries and bars and all that. And I've only been doing it for a little over a year. But the brewery scene in Jersey, particularly, I would think maybe distillery too, but the brewery scene is way better than what it had ever been recently. I know they're dealing with a lot of stuff right now, but
they're definitely doing a lot of stuff. It is. Craft breweries overall have been booming, but Jersey craft distilleries, particularly, those down the shore. There are a couple of down the shore that have been really put a big mark. But then there are a bunch of places that are opening up here in northern Jersey, and there's some great spots down in South Jersey too that are really, they have definitely won awards and have put craft brewing on the map for the state. Yeah,
absolutely. And then, so how do you? People ask me this all the time, and I find this a very difficult question to answer, but I'm going to see how you answer it, and maybe then it'll give me an insight into how I should answer this question. How do you decide who you're going to do features on for Bar Time Stories? Do you have to go there first?
Yeah, I got to at least try the juice. I got what I typically call spirits. I call it juice. It's not. I am not. Yeah, I also drink it like it's juice. But when people are making it, they're like, oh, the juice.
Yeah.
So. I have to try it first. I have to believe in it. I don't have to be completely honest. I don't have to love it. I think it's. Okay. I want to. If I don't love it, I want to know what the story is. If there's a great story behind it, and I think that this distillery. If I just think there's a great story behind it. Yeah, it can sometimes stuff is not for me. That doesn't mean it's not for someone else.
Right, I agree with that.
But I want to be able to find the most interesting, unique stories, or even if it's a story that has been told before, how do I bring my unique POV to it? What is it that I find interesting or intriguing? And I think hopefully other people will find it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that because I think that's how I approach it. It's just like trying to find interesting people with interesting stories. But then they're like, well, how do you find them?
Right.
I'm like, you just look for it. I don't know.
I think it's
do some searching.
There's a collaboration. There's, I can be on social and see. Yeah, people reach out.
Yeah.
I reached out. Like I said, I was a fan of your stuff. I think there are times where I'll be on social and I'll see somebody else post about a brand and I'm like, oh, I'm interested in learning about that. Fortunately, I get press releases. I have friends in the industry who also, hey, have you tried this? Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll just be at a bar and I'll see a bottle and I'll ask the bartender, what is that? And then I go back and do my research, or I hear about a new restaurant opening, or a friend says, hey, I'm going to such and such and I haven't heard of it. So it's just you go in and try it, and if I don't write about it, I didn't like it enough to try it, or I didn't think the story was good enough.
And you don't want to drag them.
I'm not. I don't want to. I'm not in the business of like knocking anybody down. But conversely, I'm not in the business of just fluffing the fluff.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And so we're gonna take our first break here in like a couple seconds. But before we get into our second segment, which we're gonna kind of learn specifics of places and different types of cocktails that you've had throughout the state that you like and that you would recommend, what's like kind of your go-to for alcohols? Like I drink primarily bourbon and beers.
Okay.
What would you normally be going?
Yeah, my go-to is my home go-to is a rye. That's my everyday drinker. Not that I drink it every day, but it's another cocktail term. Your everyday drinker is like that. What is that thing? There's that one bottle you can always go to if you're looking, in the whiskey world. So typically during the fall and winter, if I'm trying to be seasonal, which sometimes people are really ascribed to that, it'll be a rye or a whiskey.
Okay.
It probably was rye, single malt, then bourbon, and then in the summer it's a dark rum occasionally. But I still will drink whiskey, and people think it's gauche to like drink whiskey in the summer, but I do it all the time. Yeah. Just add a little more ice. It's fine.
Yeah.
You drink whatever you like. So
you're gonna sweat a little more.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good. Clears out the pores.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna take our first break of this episode, but in the second segment, we're gonna get into like why we're here. Right. I think the second segment's kind of like our meat.
Okay.
So for everybody listening, this is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We're here in Jersey City, New Jersey today at Madam with Rashaun Hall of Bar Time Stories. We'll be right back. Minuteman Press Westfield is a full-service printing, mailing, and marketing design firm. They specialize in apparel like the shirt I wore to Podfest 2023, which they screen printed specifically for me. To reach Minuteman Press Westfield for any of your printing needs, call 908-857-4644 or email westfield@minutemanpress.com. All right, we're back for segment 2 of this episode of Greetings from the Garden State. I'm Mike Ham. We're here in Jersey City, New Jersey today at Madam with Rashaun Hall of Bar Time Stories. So in the first segment, we learned a little bit about your background, kind of how Bar Time Stories started and what it actually is. And we normally don't do like a lot of, I'm going to say like recommendations on the show. Because normally it's like we were talking about before, it's like telling someone's story and making sure that people, like you were saying before, like they understand what's behind that, what goes into like what they're drinking, what they're eating, what they're buying, all that kind of stuff. But what I do think is interesting is because you've tried so many different places, and you said that the Jersey Pride thing is a big thing for you, as it obviously is for me. It would be cool to kind of maybe go through like, I don't know where you would want to start, maybe like types of alcohols or like brands, and then maybe into like a cocktail side and maybe some spots. Maybe we can kind of do like if you've been to different parts of the state, which I'm sure you have. We can hit like maybe a couple different ones that have stood out to you over the 4 years, almost 5 years that you've been doing it. So maybe we'll start like brands first. Can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost is the oldest distillery, or the first distillery, and it is still running, that has ever distilled spirit is based in Jersey, Laird's Applejack.
Right. That was like George
is,
Washington's favorite, right?
Yep, that is the OG of all OGs. The Laird family is still, I think they're going on 5 generations. I know Lisa will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think her kids are like knee deep in it now.
Yeah.
They make an Applejack. It's basically an apple brandy. First ever deal, the longest running. So that is kind of the quintessential spirit of New Jersey.
Right.
Bartenders love it. Gets mixed in a million and one things and stands up on its own. So that's the first one. And then we talked about breweries. There are any number of breweries up and down the state that I think are great. Being from Montclair, I have to shout out Montclair Brewery. I think,
Sure. Yeah, I was just there for the first time a couple weeks ago, I think. Yeah, and it was great. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, and they do some interesting stuff. Being of both West Indian and African descent, they do a lot of stuff with fruits and spices that are a little bit left of center, but I think are really cool.
Yeah.
What other grab me there? There's so many great spots that I'm trying to.
We're gonna leave people out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think
somebody's gonna be upset.
Exactly, and I apologize. But you mentioned we talked a little bit off mic about Ghost Hawk. I know you featured them.
Yeah.
I love their stuff. They're right down they're not far from me, right down Route 3.
Right.
And they
big
have
fan of Ghost Hawk stuff.
And
Silk City right next door, like we were mentioning.
Exactly, and Silk City's right there. So that's a 1-2 combination. If you like beer, or if you like a whiskey or a gin or a good cocktail, they kind of do it all, and you can get. So if in my case, my wife is not a beer drinker, but she can get a cocktail there if I want a beer. So
and you
there's
can
a
sit
nice
in the
1-2
bar
punch
in the brewery, and she could sit over there.
Exactly.
And then you guys can do
and then in the summer we can even just stand out, or we can stand outside in that little shared area. But there are a ton of places. I actually just became familiar with and have worked with the distillery in Central Jersey called Belmara, which is doing a single grain spirit, which is unique. It's kind of whiskey, single grain whiskey or single malt whiskey typically is done in Scotland, but there are a couple of places across America that are getting into that single grain or American single malt expression. But they're doing a single grain that's really interesting, and they do gins and they do a lot of that they don't call it farm to table, they call it grain to glass. So they make everything in house there. So there is any number of places that I haven't even haven't been to yet. Right. But if they're even like
I didn't give you
earlier,
any time to prepare.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah. Man, I'm constantly thinking about this stuff. So there are even a couple, misunderstood whiskey is God, I forget the cinnamon or ginger flavor. So I apologize to the guys, but they're from Montclair. They don't distill here, but they are they proudly represent Montclair, and they kill it. And I know it's in every liquor store in Montclair. So they definitely the town represents them and gives back to them. Also a great rum brand that I believe is based out of St. Kitts, but the owners are from Montclair as well. So and that's Brinley's Shipwreck. Yeah. So that's and I'm, again, like I said, I'm sure there are a ton of others that either that I'm forgetting or that I haven't tried. But it's amazing to see just how many different makers are in this state again.
Yeah, 100%. Like my thing has become if I go to a bar, particularly like if I go to like a craft beer bar, I'll like try to get something that is from Jersey, kind of in my wheelhouse. Like I like pilsners, lagers, like IPAs, not like anything like dark or too heavy or whatever. But always trying to go with something from Jersey, which is definitely easier on the beer side than it has been on like the liquor side.
Absolutely.
Obviously, like if you're in a place like if I go to Asbury Park, Asbury Park is all over the place in different bars. Their stuff is down there all over the place. The distillery. And they're obviously like a former guest of the show. But then if you come up to like Morristown, or even I was just like while you were talking, looking through what they have back here at Madam, like you don't see a lot of like local distillery type stuff.
You don't
in Jersey restaurants.
You don't, and some of that from what I've heard and talking to some of the distillers in particular, it's that distribution that's the hard thing. Like it's hard to get on premise at places if you're not one of the big boys, if you're not, at one of the big portfolio. And I totally get it, It's like, it's small world versus major league. It's like, it's scale. There's only so many spaces you can get on the back of that shelf, and
what's
you got to go,
exactly. Yeah. It's just interesting too, because it's like even if you go to like a liquor store, I mean, you'll see more, still not as much. But on the beer side, again, it's like interesting to see like which ones have kind of taken up that distribution side. Like obviously, Cape May you see literally everywhere. Yeah. And then what's the other one?
Kane is everywhere. They kill it, and that's it's funny. And again, it's one of those things. And I don't know if some of that is just naivete or some of not the brand's not necessarily focusing on the Jersey part of their brand. But,
Right.
I think I was drinking Cane before I knew it was a Jersey brewery.
Yeah, I
think
had no
just
idea
started,
that it was a Jersey. Like Cane Head High, I would be like, yeah,
Yep.
that. And then I realized it was from Jersey, and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I will say, I think there's certain other states, and again, I just coming back from Colorado, who love their beer, they love their craft brew scene, so they lean into it. So like any bar you go into, they have a list of, and it says made in,
Right.
Colorado or what have you.
Yeah.
I think for those bars that want to do that in Jersey, I think we could do a slightly better job of like,
Sure. It's about raising
repping that
awareness. This is
part.
what we're doing here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We'll make sure we clip this out and send it to every restaurant that I've had on
Yeah.
that doesn't have that kind of stuff. But, okay, so shifting away from kind of like the brand side to the more just like cocktail side,
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite spots to go and get a cocktail, and maybe what has that cocktail been?
Sure. I will say one thing, because I think because I have a number of friends who always will worry about when we're going out, like what bar we go to if they have the right cocktail. There's no right cocktail. I'll first and foremost
agree
say
with
that.
that.
I can go and have a beautiful cocktail at a place like this. I can also go and have a beer and a shot at a dive bar. I grew up in a dive bar.
I love a beer and a shot.
My family owned a dive bar for 40 years in Newark, so that's my roots. So I can go. Like I said, I have no allegiance. I mean, I think again, starting right here because we're here. Madam is a really great cocktail bar. They Cellar 335 was on the other side. Great high-end cocktail. They have a truffle infused old fashioned here.
Whoa.
This bar, yeah. And again, savory cocktail.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
Right.
I will tell you that. So, but they do a great cocktail here. I spend quite a bit of time at Faubourg in Montclair because that's my
I've been there
neighborhood
once.
hangout. They do some really great stuff. I can always get a really good old fashioned there. Their whiskey list is pretty good as well.
But you're getting rye old fashions.
I'll do a traditional old fashioned.
Okay.
It's funny. I never even think to order a rye old fashioned. I typically just go with whatever is
A lot of
on
times
the
they ask me
menu.
if I want bourbon or rye, and I just figured they would ask you too, and you would go.
You
rye.
know what? No, but I think I'm gonna try. I mean, I may definitely make them at home, but I think I'm gonna next time
Yeah.
I order one, I'm gonna throw the curveball in there.
Yeah.
Where else is? I mean, there. I mean, just in the northern Jersey area, there are a ton of great places. But those are the first couple that come to mind. God, what else? I'm trying to think of Atlantic City has, Atlantic City people, you obviously have the casino life, but I think there's some great spots down there. I have been to the Ocean in Atlantic City. They had a great, a couple years ago. Actually wrote about it and then went down and tried. They did this whole Girl Scout cookie theme. Girl Scout cookie cocktail theme.
Really?
So they had this like thin mint that had like either had like a mint liqueur and a little chocolate on it and some vodka.
What about the one that has like the peanut butter in it? What do you do with that? Like a peanut butter whiskey, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, there are peanut butter whiskeys out there.
I could be creative with this kind of stuff,
Look
too.
at that, man. You might be a cocktail. You might be a cocktail maker.
Right.
You got it right there.
Possibly.
So just a little peanut butter whiskey, a little chocolate syrup.
Yeah.
Some ice, maybe
Listen,
some.
somebody's listening to this. We get some kind of kickback.
There you
on
go.
that.
Just throw it in the blender. It's delicious.
Right. Like maybe like a frozen one.
Yeah, milkshake.
Yeah. Oh man. Look
There
at
you
that.
go.
Yeah, so I think that's just interesting because it's, like you said, it's really kind of, let's do this because you said dive bars. What are some of your favorite dive bars? Because I think I have a couple.
Okay.
But I'll let you if.
Yeah. I will say I'm really saddened to say that my favorite, two of my favorite dive bars. One was DLV Lounge, which was in Montclair, just closed recently after 50 years.
Okay.
And then the other one was, my family's bar was called
Sure.
Club Chester in Newark. One of the kind of bad things that kind of came out of the pandemic was, not being able to open up during COVID and not having outdoor space because, what dive bar has outdoor space?
Not many.
So that didn't get to stick around. But it's just any bar you go into, I think there's a story to be told there, man. And the more crotchety and ornery the bartenders are in a dive bar, the better it's going to be. You want the floors to be sticky. You want a weird old pool table.
Right.
Just that.
It's literally Tavern Off the Green in Morristown is a great dive bar. Like a cash only type place, but it's like the same kind of thing. It's like the people that are in there, they're just like the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
super simple.
Exactly. And then the Great Notch Inn, which is in it's off of 46, like right kind of by like Montclair State.
Yeah. I know
I put up a story that I was there one night, and it's been there for forever. Everyone was like messaging. I got more messages about that story that I put up on Instagram that I was at the Great Notch Inn than I've ever gotten on anything I've ever posted on that page. And people were like, oh, holy shit, like I've always been too scared to go in there because I thought it was like a biker bar, because you always see like a lot of motorcycles out front.
Yep.
And there's like, you know, like people that I know that went to Montclair State, they're like, oh yeah, like we've always wanted to go in, but we figured we'd get our asses kicked.
Yep.
And I remember it was actually right after I interviewed Steve from Ghost Talk. Mm-hmm. He was like, you got to go check out Great Notch Inn. And he was telling me kind of like the story, and if you ever want to hear that story, like we'll go there too.
Okay.
After we get, you know, we'll just start bouncing around to bars if you want. But like I was talking to the owner, and he's telling me the story. Like his grandfather owned it. One of the reasons why Route 46 is always such a shit show in that area is because of them.
Yeah.
It's like they tried to take their bar.
Yeah.
They said, go fuck yourself.
Yep.
And then that was it. They just like, at one point they had to like put it on logs and like roll it, you know, where it is now. But it's like, you know, there's still like the same little space. Like they've made some updates obviously, but it's just a cool spot.
Yeah, I love that the current construction, not to get super crazy, the current construction has to is like veering around it. Like they built around, which is again that great story of like, you're like, and it's also very Jersey. It's like,
it is
fuck
very,
you now.
it is very Jersey.
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. But, and like you walk in and, you know, I'm going to forget the owner's name off the top of my head, but like, he's like a big guy. He's got like long gray hair, goatee. Like he looks like he can kick the shit out of you.
Right.
But he was like the nicest guy of all time. And he was like, yeah, like nobody's going to get their ass kicked in here unless you're an asshole.
Yeah. You know, and that should be the benchmark anywhere. Yeah.
So, I mean, that should be any bar. But yeah, like there's so many like places like that. And like you said, I mean, there's it just depends like what kind of night you're trying to have or like what kind of drink you're trying to have. You know, it's just like wherever you want to be sitting.
Yeah, and I'd say more specifically. I mean, my thing in that's any bar I go into. I watch the bartender. Be nice to the bartender, no matter who he, she, or they are. But you know, watch the bartender. You can pretty quickly tell whether a bartender knows what they're doing or not. And that helps me determine whether I'm ordering a shot and a beer or I'm ordering a cocktail.
That's true. I also think that I think a bartender can know what they're doing, but may be limited by the bar that they are working in.
Definitely.
So you could put a terrible bartender in this bar, which looks phenomenal, and they'd probably suck. But you could put a great bartender in, you know, the Great Notch Inn, and they only have so many things that they can work with. They're not making a truffle-infused old-fashioned at the Great Notch Inn.
No, they're not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's also that, you know, the thing I hear most from bartenders is like just kind of read their life. If a bartender is slammed, don't order 4 espresso martinis. Like I know they're delicious, they are, but like that's the thing that you know they'll serve them to you. They'll absolutely, but it slows the process down. If you're like if you're at a really big volume bar, if you're you know that just is the inevitability of it, and it makes it takes long.